Well, welcome back and a very big good morning to you, Mzansi. It's so good to spend this beautiful Tuesday along with you as we talk about that work-life balance. It is possible, I think, I hope. Okay, so here's the question. When at work, do you feel guilty when you take a break and why?
Oh, you know, everyone, first of all, didn't think of the person that feels guilty taking a break. I bet you all of you thought of that person who you know feels nuts for taking a break. They're having a break right now from last week. Well, let us know. 0630369649. That is the number to use if you want to chat about anything today. And I'd love for you to weigh in with some of your insights as well. It's that time of the year.
It is.
Burnout is a real thing, man. And we've got to do something about it because it's the kind of thing, unfortunately, you can't go back and fix retrospectively.
Right.
Let's be proactive.
Yeah. So we're talking about corporate wellness in particular. It isn't just about helping people recover from burnout. It's about preventing it, or at least trying to in the first place. And as part of this morning's focus on workplace well-being, staff wellness counsellor Daniella Mair joins us once again to explore how recognizing the early signs and setting healthier boundaries, emphasis on that, can help us work well without sacrificing ourselves.
Good morning, Daniella.
Good morning.
That's a big one.
It is a big one, but I'm seeing happy faces all around.
I mean, there's a few jumping off. So first of all, you sorted out all relationships, so we don't have to talk about relationships anymore. Now we can just deal with the workplace dynamic. When we talk about boundaries, you saw me a second ago standing on national TV asking people to help me get dressed in my lounge while they're in their bedroom. Okay, very few boundaries remain in TV land. The feeling of burnout, how do we classify that first of all? Because I think all of us have a slightly different version, and it is relative, surely.
Right.
It is relative, but I think the most important thing is there's a difference between being very busy and burnout. And I think the best way I can explain it is if you've got a cell phone and the battery is running low and you go and plug it in and it recharges.
Get 5%.
That's being busy, exactly.
Yeah.
You're so busy, you're on your phone all the time, emails, whatever, you go recharge it, happy days. Burnout is completely different. Burnout is kind of like when you've lost the charger completely.
Sure.
And you've got no way of connecting it to power up again. So I think the best thing to do is, am I busy that when I take a break or a weekend or whatever, I feel refreshed? Or am I in this doom and gloom, nothing's getting better, I need to check out of life completely, you know? So I think that's the difference.
I like that analogy, actually. It puts a lot into perspective.
Yeah, it's almost like as you were talking, I can feel the seesaw just getting too much on one side, and you can jump on the side and get it back
100%.
up. But unless you clear that weight, that's hectic.
Definitely.
All right, so from the people that you've actually counseled, I'm curious to hear, what's one early sign of burnout maybe you could help somebody today that we can recognize and maybe tackle?
So I think the best thing to do is rely on people who know you, because we get so caught up in this chaos of our life, and as we go on, we kind of just melt into what we're becoming. So I think that one of the early signs is, are you more irritable than normal? Are you sleeping worse? Are you snappy, you know? And people around you will say, you've kind of lost your spark, you know? There's something going on and you look like you need a break, you know? Because these people have also seen you be busy and how you recover.
Right.
So I think that if people start noticing, or if you start noticing that something just doesn't quite feel like yourself.
You just can't reset,
And you can't figure it out either. Why? What is going on? Like, there's nothing going on in my life to make me feel this way. I think that's a good sign that you're heading towards something that really needs to change.
And then you work in TV and you realize that every second you spend here is exhausting and under duress, and you are validated by how you can stay standing. And I say this, and I'm laying it on thick because this has been the career thread for me. You prove your worth by how hard you are, how long you can work, how little sleep you can survive until you can't.
Exactly.
And then there's no one waiting to pick you back up because the system is like that. How do we set boundaries when we are defined by our output?
So the first thing I want to do is differentiate what the meaning of a boundary is and what this martyrdom is. So a boundary is not saying that I am no, I'm not going to be available, or no, I'm not going to be here at 4 a.m. or whatever the story is.
We've still got to achieve what we've got to achieve,
We still have
right?
to achieve, and we have to follow through with our commitments. A boundary is kind of a way for you to protect yourself and your mental health. So a boundary might be, you know what, for me, at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m., my phone's going to go off. You don't need to be available at 1 in the morning to answer an email. And I guarantee you nobody's ever been promoted or gotten a raise because of how many emails they've answered after 5 o'clock, you know? So when you talk about how do I show my worth in the workplace, it's quality over quantity. And when you take care of yourself and you have those boundaries in place, you produce a much better quality of work.
Yeah.
And that is what people are looking for, because they want to know that you're reliable and that they can count on you and that you're going to give good quality. Not that if they phone you at 1 in the morning, you're going to answer the phone.
Well, and if that's the expectation that you're feeling, perhaps your role isn't what has been laid out. And I think that's that you've maybe become a personal crutch for that person within your work dynamic. Maybe you've become a crutch for the team because there are elements of that system that are missing.
Exactly.
And that's something that you need to do about systemically, not emotionally.
Totally.
That needs to be fixed,
So
right?
it's very often about what the expectations are of you. And I also find very often that people feel like if they're not on the go at all times, that they're not valued or they're not valuable.
That's a good one.
And I think the thing is to say, you know what, take a break, calm down, let's prioritize everything that needs to happen. And on the top of the priority list needs to be your mental health, because you want to keep this career or this job for an extended period of time.
Can't drink from a broken cup,
Exactly, you can't drink from a broken cup, and it's so,
How about
so
martyrdom?
true.
Let's touch on that. So then where does that reach into?
Because martyrs love a little martyrdom.
This is the thing. I mean, we see it in relationships all the time. It's, I don't need anything. I just want to make sure that you've got everything you need so that you can see how valuable I am. And the thing is that so often we also see people are kind of like trying so hard to find their value that it takes somebody else to give them kind of permission almost to take a break, you know?
So that would say you need a strong leader to be able to step into these positions. But who breaks that cycle then? Because now you're talking about childhood trauma, people pleasing. When we get into that space of why we act in these ways, it takes us a few steps back. So where does that start? It really does.
But I think that we are very lucky to be living in the time that we are, where it is so accepted now to take mental health breaks and check out and speak. I mean, there are so many corporates now that have like enormous staff wellness programs, you know, and HR departments that really want to help, you know. So I think that it is very important to just always keep in the back of your mind that you are no good to anybody unless you are whole.
Yeah.
And it's so cliched, and people are like,
it's the value of the human capital, It's what efficacy.
And you're in charge of it. We are all individually in charge of it.
We have agency. It's a nice reminder of that. So if somebody wants to make a change today, I know that we're going to keep it around for a part 2, but if they could just implement something or at least start thinking about it, what would you suggest or recommend?
Well, the first thing is if you're working for a company, check out the HR department and check out what there is on offer in case you want to utilize that. But the second thing is we also are creatures of habit. So we need to make these changes slowly. So kind of put down a list of things that you'd like to try and achieve. And if today is the only day that you're going to take your whole lunch break and turn your phone off so that you're not available, or you're going to decide that you're only going to answer emails until 5 o'clock and then you're going to stop, start setting those boundaries, the small ones.
And test them out, see what works. Bring other people into your journey.
Exactly.
Say, guys, I'm testing out a thing to help us all just be a bit more relaxed on a Friday. Can we institute a rule that we're not going to send emails after?
Absolutely,
and if we know,
I love that.
Because then you can have a backup plan for that emergency call that does need to be made at 1 o'clock. Then we work within, not someone getting fired retrospectively because they didn't answer their phone because there was this surreal expectation that no one had actually ever laid out.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Part 1 of this conversation has already got all of us thinking. Daniella, Mair, thank you for joining us. And she's going absolutely nowhere. We really do want to tackle burnout and try our best to get that work-life balance as best as possible. We're in this together, but we'll get back to you on the other side of this break.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back as we get into part 2 of an incredible conversation that's going to help you, I promise. Now, we often think about burnout as something that only affects our performance at work, but I think it's so much more than that.
Oh, man, it's difficult. There's another boundary to maintain. When the stress comes home with us, it can quietly begin to affect our relationships. It affects our sleep, our health, even our immunity gets affected. And I think it's those moments at home that we think are our safe place. When that gets affected, that's when we need to get the big guns in, like staff wellness counsellor Daniella Mair. She is back to unpack the hidden cost of burnout beyond the workplace now.
I like that, the hidden costs. It is pricey.
Very pricey.
It's expensive. Oh my goodness.
Especially when you go divorce.
Sure.
I can imagine. Okay, so burnout doesn't, as we said, end at the office, right? It actually spills over into other spaces. So what's usually the first part of someone's personal life that gets to suffer from burnout?
So burnout actually is caused from the office, but it is the first thing that follows you home. So it's acted out at home, not at the workplace.
It almost lives out at home.
It lives out at home because when you go back to work, you put that mask back on that I can do whatever you need me to do. So personal life suffers tremendously, and this is why I said earlier, like count on the people who really know you to make sure, like to keep you in check, because there's this amazing thing that I've learned over the years is that when you are someone's safe place, they don't need to put in any pretenses. So when somebody takes everything out on you, it's because they feel safest to be their natural self around you. And this is where burnout becomes a big problem, because that often is your children, your wife, your husband, your partner, your family, and it is not fair to them, and it causes so much damage because you're not the same person. You don't treat the people around you the same way, and it just causes this buildup of resentment.
Right.
There's a detachment, I feel, certainly in my case, where I feel like I can't even explain to them how I'm feeling. And we work in a very empathetic space, and I'm doing even more intense empathetic work now where I find it difficult to come back. And it almost feels like a responsibility to stay there a little bit. I've shifted to framing it with my family to make them a part of that journey, because I have to. Every time I come home from work, I get the flow of consciousness, my poor wife trying to understand what I'm even talking about. But I need that. But it's that feeling for myself of feeling disconnected and not knowing even where to begin. I'm home, but I'm not present.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
How do we address that within ourselves? Because I can't expect those closest to me who I'm also trying to protect.
Yeah, okay, so I'm so glad you said that. The first thing is that even in the workplace or at home, right, we've got absenteeism, which is a problem. Presenteeism is even worse.
Have you just given us something new to hate about ourselves?
Presenteeism is when you're there physically, but your mind is elsewhere.
Oh, it's rough.
So that's even worse, because for the people around you, they think that you're there, but you're not. And then they come and they try and take from you, engage, and you're not there, and they can't understand why.
And this is the behaviour they're going to model as adults subconsciously.
100%. But the best thing that you said now leads to, we don't want to feel like we're burdening our partner or our families. But by not sharing with them and without giving them a little bit, what we're saying to them really is, I don't trust that you can handle this. And what is that in return saying is, I'm better than you. I can handle this, you can't handle this. So I'm not going to put this
right back.
Exactly. Sure. So what does this say? Where's this communication? That we're supposed to be a team. You're saying now that I'm not capable, so stuff you, almost, you know? And that's where the cycle, really begins to, throw the wheels off.
And that's how we land up in your office.
And I think we, 100%. You know, she's just leaving little breadcrumbs to lead us all there. Now we got relationships at work and we got relationships at home. I'm now beginning to understand. But there is something about, I think, we're not going to connect to find a solution. We are connecting to process what has happened. And I think if people can separate those two things, especially men, you're not asking for someone to come and save the day. You're just trying to figure out how it all needs to be put together.
Definitely. And you want to be able to just offload. So I've got a very cool trick that I use.
Tell us, please.
Is that when you're speaking to someone or someone wants to speak to you, right? So if you come home and you're busy and whatever, have a rule in your house to say, okay, I need to talk to you. Response, do you want a solution or do you just want ears?
Yeah,
That's
Okay,
it.
I
that's
just
far
want
too grown up
ears.
for my household. I don't know how we're going to ever get close to that. I don't know.
Because what we hate is when we've got this overload of information and this burnout and everything, we don't want somebody who doesn't know to come and give us advice that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
To say, you know what, I just need ears. Please, I just need a vent. That's it.
just
You know,
need
I don't need you
listen.
to say anything, but now we've shared
Yeah.
and I feel involved in your life.
Right.
And it makes it so
You're
much
not alone.
smoother.
Connecting
not
there.
alone.
Tough for men because they like to come with solutions, but I mean, sometimes all we need is a listening ear.
Exactly.
So if somebody's listening right now to this conversation and they're recognizing themselves, all the signs are going off, they're saying, okay, me, how do they start building a healthier life going forward, both at home and at work?
I think, firstly, take like a really long think about
Yeah.
your life, where you are now, where you were hoping to be, you know, what the difference in between is. Have a look at your family situation. Be really honest with yourself. And I mean, I love lists. I always say lists.
Lists are great.
But make a list of the things that aren't quite right for you, you know. Identify them. Once you've identified them, you can start to make change. And don't put too much pressure on yourself, like baby steps, you know. If one thing that you don't like is the way that you treat your cat because your boss shouted at you, every time your boss shouts at you, think, you know, try and make a mental note, like, I mustn't take this out of my cat, you know? And just make these little changes every day. And soon, once we've started doing these little things, it changes our behavior.
Small, incremental, little steps, not
Always.
the whole mountain, just little bits. We don't want to
Exactly.
mention a mountain this time of the year. Okay, we're not even talking about
great.
hills when we're talking about burnout, okay? Just one foot in front of the other. Now, the bottom line is, and we see this in an organizational sense, and maybe our industry highlights this, the worst moments become the best if you work through them. That's the opportunity that burnout reveals. It's time to recalibrate, make those changes. It isn't a sign of weakness.
Right.
Something just isn't gelling. It's often a sign that something needs to change before our health has to pay the price, or worse yet, our family and the people we care about. Think about that, gents, before you act all tough and stoic.
Absolutely.
Daniella,
Okay.
thank you for joining us
Thank
again.
you so much for having me.
Always coming through
So
with so
good.
much knowledge. Definitely a lot for us to digest, take in, and maybe actually have a break right now. And I know our girls out in Jersey are taking a break in the most perfect way. Please save us a risk.
Or two.